In order to have a better understanding about language, we have to, look into society as well. Language is not static, it is always changing, it is so dynamic. Sociolinguistics is defined as the study of language in relation to society. As my topic suggests, that it will deal with language, it will deal with society, and it will also look into the sociolinguistic perspective of the language, how language transforms society. So first, let me start with what language is all about very briefly, although everybody knows what language is, but I just want to have a recap about what language is all about. So language, as we know, is a means of communication. It is what makes us human. We are different from other beings, like animals, so to say, just because we speak language and we can, recollect our past, we can talk about our future, we can also talk about the present moment very efficiently through language. So between human beings as well, we share ideas, information, and also have an interaction with one another through the use of language, through the medium language. So when we talk to other people, we become speaker, and when we, take turns in listening, so we become listener. As simple as that. So, but we cannot understand language fully. Although I said that language is a means of communication, that is not the only characteristic or the defining characteristic about language. Language is much more to that. So in order to understand language, we have to look into the various angles, into various, perspective that people have already laid down about language from different time period. Just like how we cannot properly, define life, we have to talk to other people, we have to, share our own experiences and also listen to other people's life experiences. So language is also just the same. So it's life is also collection of the experiences of different individuals. So through that, we will have a broader understanding and a better understanding about what life is. So language is also, based on what people have viewed from different perspective, like Noam Chomsky, like different linguists, they have shared their viewpoints. So we can understand language only through that. So as we all know, language exists in a society, within a society, because without the society, language cannot exist. Because who speaks language? Language is spoken by human beings, by the people who live in a society, who share the same norms, who share the same code, who understand one another. So language exists in a society, and simply because the speakers also live in that society. So the lifetime of language is decided by the society in many ways. So we are human beings, we may think that we have life, and we hardly get in deep inside us, thinking about language, whether language has life or, what is going on with language. But language do have life. So language and society both influence and shape each other in various ways. So that will be my first point. And in order to have a better understanding about language, we have to, look into society as well. So we have said that language exists within society. Society helps shape language. So what is society? Society, when we say society, society is a group of people who live together in a definable community and share culture, norms, and they do interact on a daily basis. And it is not simply, people living together or just collection of individuals, It's more complex than that, because when we look into society, yes, some society are very simple. We can easily adjust with some societies, but so some societies are hard to understand because they have a very complex system of relationship. And even in language learning, when we try to learn a new language, there are some honorifics, there are some very complex linguistic features which are easily understood by the speakers within the community, but as an outsider, or if anyone who is not speaking the language is trying to learn that new language, you have to be aware of the cultural practices, because some of these are derived from the cultural practices. That's why it's very complex system which involves the relationship that is built within the society, which is and also through the social structures. What is the social hierarchy? What kind of structures do they have? Is there any class? Is there any caste? Is there any kind of division? Or what is the structure of the society, and also the institutions that shape individuals' behavior and collective life? So we can say that societies are characterized by shared values, beliefs, and also practices, and they provide framework for social organization and cooperation among the members of that society. So I also want to bring speech community into this because it is very much related. So let me share with you a definition given by Hockett, a linguist, Hockett, in the year 1958. He defines speech community as, he said that each language defines a speech community, the whole set of people who communicate with each other, either directly or indirectly, via common language. So when we talk about speech community, there are people who are living together and who are having communication using one language that they know. That is the common language. It may be direct communication or indirect communication. So in order to help us understand about, what we are going to talk about very shortly, this concept of speech community is also very important as well. So language is not static, it is always changing. It is so dynamic that if we look into the language that was spoken by our grandparents generation, our parents generation, and even the current generation, and even in the future generation, so language keeps in terms of meanings, in terms of the structure, in terms of how we form sentences, the way we speak. There are lots of changes that is happening, which help us to express social meaning and also reflect. And it also help us define our group identities, the identities in which we belong to in a society. So the branch of knowledge which deals with all of this, the study of language, the scientific study of language, is known as linguistics. I hope all of us are aware of that. So within this social linguistics, there is another branch which comes under applied linguistics, social linguistics, which we are going to deal with today. So this social linguistics is defined as the study of language in relation to society. So in order to understand what goes on in social linguistics, we have to relate language with society. So social linguistics is a very important area in linguistics, and it is not easy to interpret what goes on in the society using language. So we need to do research, we need to collect data, all sorts of data, and we need to apply various methodologies to understand what goes on within the society using the help of various methods. So I would also want to mention that it is not easy to identify language is spoken in the world. So when we are asked like how many languages are spoken in the world, there is no exact number that we can say. So it is often said that there are more than 7,000 plus languages in the world which are identified till date, but that is not the accurate number. Think about, those languages which are unexplored, which are undescribed, which are inaccessible to a researcher, or those languages which are already dead in the world. So we don't have the exact count of total number of languages. So what happens to those languages? They have undergone various kind of, processes. Some of them are even extinct today. So what happens with those communities, those societies, those language speakers? So we need to think about this area as well in order to have a better understanding about, the relationship or the interrelationship between language and society. What do people do with their language? Or what do other people do with others' language? To answer this question would be very important for us. So we have various ways of classifying languages. We classify languages, sometimes we call some languages major language, dominant language, minor language, indigenous language. We give different names to different languages. So these are our own classification. Then in order to understand all these, different classification of languages, we have to get to, language and dialect. What do we call something as language? What do we call something as dialect? So it seems to be very similar, but they are so different. They're so different. So when we say language, it is a regional variety. If we look into different states of India will have their own official language, maybe one or two official languages which are used for, official purposes. But when we talk about language, we have to come deep down into the root. Where do we get language? We get language from something called variety, regional variety. So the so-called regional variety becomes language when it is undergoing some kind of, processes, standardization processes, which, which has, given its current status as standard language. So regional variety, which is written and which is considered to be standard, we call it as language. But regional variety, which is not written and which is non-standard, that is dialect. That is the easiest way in which we can distinguish language and dialect. Of course, we can further distinguish them based on, number of speakers and various other criteria, whether, one is prestigious or another one is not prestigious. So we will not go deep into this. Then how does a variety of a language get the status of a dialect? So I have already mentioned that it has to undergo various kind of processes. It may be social process, as well as it may be the involvement of certain government policies. So for standardization, it has to go through selection of that particular variety, codification, that means it has to be written down, elaboration of function, that means that written form of the language has to have, function in official purposes, and it has to be accepted by the community. So all these processes are involved. That's why I said in the, just few minutes back, I have said that language and dialect are so similar, but when it undergo this kind of standardization processes, it has become so different because one is uplifted to the status of a standard language. So the selected variety gains prestige. And so the people who already speak it share it in this prestige as well. Then what happens to the variety? There are numbers of, varieties within a state, within a particular region, within a particular district, village to village. The way we speak are different. We use slightly different languages, although we can communicate with one another and understand each other. Then what happened to those varieties which did not get selected for promotion into standard language? Then what is the fate of these languages? Where are they now? What have they become now? So this is another question which needs to be addressed in this regard as well. So please think about it in your own state, in your own region, in your own community. What happens to such kind of languages? So I would like to come to linguistic diversity in India now. So let's have a look into the Indian scenario. So everybody knows that, India is a diverse country, linguistically, culturally, ethnically, racially, in, different ways. India is so diverse. That's why we said unity in diversity. That is the common, um, statement made by, all of us. So when we say diversity here, I want to focus on the linguistic diversity part, how diverse our India is. So we have four major language families: Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, Tibeto-Burman, Austro-Asiatic. These are the four major ones, but we also have two additional language families which were, classified by linguists in recent times. One is the Tai-Kadai language family, the languages spoken mostly in Arunachal Pradesh. Some of these languages are classified under this language family. And the Andamanese language family, languages spoken in the Andaman region. So in India, as we all know, there are 22 settled languages, and which are recognized by the 8th schedule of the Constitution. So I don't think I need to read out all these, languages. We all are aware of that. So according to the 2011 census, there are approximately 19,569 mother tongues spoken in India. So what are these settled languages, mother tongues, non-settled languages? So looking at all these figures, there could be more mother tongues in India. So when was the last census conducted? Census, if I'm not mistaken, the last census was conducted in 2011. So how many mother tongues were identified? As I've mentioned, 19,569. Think about some other mother tongues, those speakers who didn't come out and declare that such and such is their mother tongue. So we will never get to know that such kind of mother tongue exists in India. So unless the speakers take initiative and uh, keep it in record that this is their mother tongue, even the officials, even people who are concerned with that will never get to know about them, because it's not easy identifying mother tongues. It's not easy identifying number of languages. And also in 2024, India recognizes 11 classical languages. So I want to bring in all this diversity in languages with different terms, with different figures that we have in India. Although there may be one or two official languages in each of the Indian state, it is not a representation of the total number of languages spoken in each state. So if we look at the official status of every state in India, we will get to see maybe two languages as official languages, or in some languages, maybe three or even more. But those are not the only languages which are spoken in those states. So there are much more than that, So looking at this, earlier we have mentioned about the language families in India. So let's look into the figures, how many languages are within these language families. So the Tibeto-Burman language family has approximately 400 languages. Indo-Aryan language family has over 200 languages. Dravidian languages have about 25 languages. Austro-Asiatic languages have about 14 languages. So all these figures itself show how diverse, how linguistically diverse India is. it's not only the 22 settled languages which represent India, but looking at all these features, there are, so much diversity that is there in every language family, in every state, in every nook and corner of India. So we cannot deny that, it is undeniably true that rarely languages remain within its boundary. Looking at all of this, people move, people migrate, people travel from one place to another, people interact with one another, and people, even because of urbanization and because of global impact and because of, better opportunities, people move from, smaller villages to bigger cities. So that is what we have been observing even till today. So looking at these numbers that we have already mentioned, we cannot say that there will not be any kind of context situation in those cities, in those places where people come together. So when people interact, people come in contact, their languages also come in contact with one another. So their languages got influenced by one another, and there have been some kind of changes that's happening in that, community, in that speech community. So languages, this kind of context situation will give rise to borrowing of words, because words are never enough to express ourselves. So, and there are lots of inventions because of technological development that are happening. So, borrowing of words, and people learn more than one language, they become bilinguals, they become multilinguals, So, there is code mixing, that means language mixing and code switching as well. They switch their language and they mix up languages as well, and also language shift. And if I have to, say further, then there will be language endangerment. Then there will be, language language extinction, language dead as well. To that extent, these context situation can create, or can have an impact on the society through language. So when languages are in contact, it has both negative and positive impact, and it can alter language features lexically, grammatically, structurally, and semantically as well. So, like we said, there is borrowing, so that's the lexical part. Grammatically, because some grammatical elements will get involved there as well. Structurally, some structural changes will happen, and meaning also, there will be some kind of meaning change. Meaning may be retained, or meaning may, that word will get a new meaning. We never know, right? So the linguistic features will either get assimilated into neighboring languages, or it will bring about creation of a new language, as in the case of pidgin. Pidgin is, uh, a new language which is formed out of the context situation for communication purpose, so that people will have a better communication, they will understand one another. So, and that pidgin will eventually lead to creolization, where there will be native speakers, first language speakers of that pidgin, which is the newly formed language, through that common language, right? So it can even get to that extent. So if languages in context are from different languages, it can bridge communication gap by simplifying languages. So sometimes some language structures are so different that it is not easy to learn a new language by those people who newly came to that particular place or particular region. So what happens is they try to simplify the structure of that language, or maybe the sounds, or maybe, some aspect of the language, so that it will help them in communicating with people who are already, there, the native people in that particular place or city or the so-called region. So it is observed that languages are not the same in terms of number of speakers, in terms of their dominance, in terms of their importance, and in terms of their function. languages are so different from one another, they are so diverse from one another. So the dominant language gradually overpowers the indigenous or minority languages. And many languages are endangered and are on the verge of extinction. So while speaking on this, I would also like to bring into, the scale that is being, used by UNESCO for checking on the status of language with regard to intergenerational transmission of language, because this is very important. So they have used some scales like SAFE, when language is spoken by all generations, and stable yet threatened, when language is spoken by most contexts, by all generations with unbroken intergenerational transmission. But here, people already learn, different languages more than their what they are growing up with, their home language. Multilingualism has come into the picture in this communication context. That's why, although the language is stable, it has become threatened. But I'm not saying that multilingualism has bring about this threatenment into the language. So unsafe language becomes unsafe when most, but not all, children or families of a particular community speak their language as their first language, mostly in the home domain for interaction with their parents and grandparents. So they speak their mother tongue only for interaction purpose at home, and definitely endangered when the language is no longer learned as the mother tongue by children in the home. And in this case, the youngest speakers are the parents or the parental generation. And when a language is considered to be severely endangered, it is spoken only by grandparents and older generations. And the parents' generation may still understand the language to a certain extent, but they do not speak or they do not transfer it to their children. And the language becomes critically endangered when the youngest speakers are in the great parental generation, great grandparental generation, and the language is no longer used for everyday interaction. So how do language shape society? How do they interact with one another? We can see through what happens when it comes to transferring of language. People no longer teach their language to their own family members, to their next generation, or to posterity. Maybe because of various reasons. Maybe because it does not serve any purpose except communicating with their family members, or maybe within their neighborhood, in the marketplace. So there are several domains of language use. So what do we speak at home? What do we speak with your friends? What do we speak in the classroom? With what language are we taught in schools, in college, in university, medium of instruction? And what is the language that is used in religious place? What is the language that you speak when you interact with other people in various other domains? So we need to analyze ourselves with regard to how we use language. How many languages do we know? Are we monolingual? Are we bilinguals? Are we multilinguals? And where do we use these languages? In what context? In what situation? That will be very important. So, and finally, after all of these stages, the language will become extinct when the youngest speakers are the great grandparental generation, because there is so much generation gap already, and there is no one who can speak or remember the language. Eventually, the language is extinct. So language that is also there. That's why earlier we have said that language has a lifetime. Language is also like human beings living our life. So it goes through different kind of social processes. It has undergone, it is shaped by the society as well. So when a language is extinct, it cannot be revived because there is no specimen which is left. But when a language is endangered, we can document them, we can preserve them, we can archive them, and we can, keep it for the future generation. So in this context, multilingualism in this AI age is very important because it helps us bridge all these gaps by breaking down the language barriers that we have with other people for communication. So think about earlier when digitization, all this digital age was not, very common like what we have today. How much struggle we have in communication, in communicating with the other communities who are living alongside us, or in our workplace, or in schools, in institutions. So we have struggled a lot, right? Because it's not easy. So communication connects us with other human beings, and in that way we can maintain this diversity, the so-called diversity that we have in India, because we acknowledge each other's culture, we acknowledge each other's language, we acknowledge and we accept one another, because we are introduced to all those language and cultures and the norms, the societal norms that they have along with that language. So uh, AI has brought the world closer together by serving as, a bridge in this language barrier. And as we can see today, we can just look up for meanings of words by using Google Translate, the translation tools. And, we can even travel to places without knowing the language of that particular country or particular place. So it has helped us a lot. So one has to admit that even children grow up learning not only their home language, but multiple other languages simultaneously, because they have so many applications in their hands. They're growing up with that. So children, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, they started learning foreign languages or languages other than their mother tongue. They grow up with those languages. So learning is not only from physical classroom, but can be done remotely using various platforms, even while sitting at home. This is true, this is what technology has given to us. And this is how our world changed from being restricted with speaking only one language to breaking communication barriers by connecting with people who are living across the globe. They may be, same language speakers, or they may be language speaking different other languages as well. So in that way, we can have exchange of ideas, transfer of knowledge, and even the society also got transformed in some way or the other. I am not saying that society got transformed always in a good way. Sometimes the impact it has brought to society is also, negative. So there is a bane as well as there is a boon in this regard as well. So if AI is the norm in this age, what would happen to many languages of our era? That is another concern. What would happen? So we have something called, language in digital space. Not every language got that kind of space. There are languages which are very low in resources with regard to this area. So what happens to those languages which did not get such kind of platform? Will they just, become extinct like what we have discussed earlier, undergoing different kinds of processes because they did not get that kind of space, they did not get that kind of platform? Or what will become of those languages? Will more languages become endangered? But using technology, there are various tools that are developed to to document language, to digitize language, and to archive language. So through these tools, we can use these tools as a platform for connecting with the speakers, especially the endangered languages, the minority languages, or the indigenous languages, and we can document their language by working together with these communities so that we can make use of what we have at present in our hand for our advantage, for humanity. Because if one language is lost, if one language is dead, if one language is extinct, that matters to humanity, that matters to the entire world. That's why diversity is very important. That's why inclusivity of all these languages are very important when it comes to promoting, preserving, and also giving a platform in whatever way we can give them. So, so through this discussion, I would like to conclude that language is our reflection. Language is a reflection of our society. So we can observe about the society through through the speaker, through the choice of words, through the honorifics that they use in their language, through the various vocabularies that are there. Suppose if a language has so many vocabularies related to agricultural items, so what can we learn about this society? We understand that uh, they practice a lot of agricultural uh, farming, right? So language is a reflection. So language is very important for us, and language is very important for understanding the society as well. So it also reveal information about how we perceive and categorize the world around us. How do we categorize them? And also, like I said, the choice of vocabularies and the difference in grammatical structures can lead to different understanding of concepts, not only that, relationships and even reality itself. And this also provides information about the background of the speaker. Okay, where is this speaker from? Okay, this speaker has this certain accent, or this speaker is speaking in a particular way, so this speaker must be from this place, from this region. So we can also get certain kind of information through language as well. And language is not just a tool for communication, but also a powerful marker of social identity and a dynamic force within society.
You mentioned UNESCO scale for language vitality. So, how can teachers and schools use this framework to assess and strengthen the vitality of local languages among children? Ma'am, you muted.
Okay. So, ma'am, so how can this be applicable in schools, right? So, yeah, it is applicable to everyone because everyone is speaking language, be it at home, be it in school. So, just that we are changing the place where we are staying. So, when we are at home, we are speaking one language, and when we move out of home, we may be interacting with our friends in another language. So, how is it influencing us? So do we what is the language that we consider it as our mother tongue? Is it the home language, or is it some other language other than the home language? So we have to assess ourselves through that. So like the language that was considered to be the native language or the mother tongue. So what kind of position is it assuming? Does it still become the dominant language for the individual, or does other language replace that position? So through that we can assess ourselves, and we will know the status of, here we are focusing more on the mother tongue. When I talk about that language transfer, intergenerational transmission, I am focusing more on the mother tongue, the language that was transferred from the different generations, right? From parents' generation to children's generation to the next generation. So uh, in schools, we may be interacting with other people because maybe we have a common language. maybe English, Hindi, or some other languages that everybody, can interact with one another. So, so in that way, what does your school language become your mother tongue? Does it replace your mother tongue at home? Or what is the status of your mother tongue? Is your mother tongue still retained at home because you're speaking the same language? Then, if you start communicating at home in some other language than the mother tongue, then you have to assess it through these, uh, different scales that I have mentioned earlier, like safe, unstable, yet threatened. Then those different, scales are there. So we have to assess that. In that way, we'll be able to understand what is the status of my language. Is it in danger? Or after 10 years, after 50 years, what will become of my mother tongue? Here, a language with million number of speakers can also become threatened because people may say that, okay, I speak this language, I speak that language, but actually what happens in reality? Is it transferred, or do the children learn their language? Because one very simple thing to test this is, what language do children speak? So through that we'll get to know, a lot of things about what will become of what is the future of this language in the coming years. Here I am not denying the fact that, other languages are not important. It's very important. Other languages are very important for communication purpose, because we should be able to choose which language to use in what situation, what to speak, and which language to speak and when to speak. So that will be very important for us. Suppose if you are in a multilingual setting, and if you try to communicate with this group of people only with your mother tongue, that is also not correct. So we should know when to use what type of language, depends on the situation. Choosing language according to situation will be very important, and it will help us in successful communication as well.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Srikumar wanted to ask a question. Sir, can you come up?
I understand that you are from Manipur, and you have done some research related to the culture in Manipur and also threatened languages. I understand that especially in Nagaland, there are so many tribal languages. We have also worked with the tribal languages, and there are so many of them. And if you think about it, communication and breakdown because people can't understand each other. They speak in their own language, which only that community knows. So I think that is something which the framers of Indian Constitution also realized when in Article 351 they said that Hindi should become the lingua franca. That is the language which everybody will understand because more by percentage more people understand Hindi. So they thought it will naturally become the lingua franca. Likewise, in Nagaland, I was told that if you know English, you can still manage with the elite people. And then, of course, there is something called Nagamis, which is another lingua franca, which you can use it to communicate with all the people, irrespective of their tribe. So I think with your understanding of this Northeastern the language and their culture, uh, how do you think they are able to manage these differences and is it that lingua franca has to emerge for successful communication to take place?
Okay. Thank you, sir. It's very interesting, and it's something close to my heart as well. So, although I have never lived in Nagaland, but yeah, I have friends, and then I have some understanding about what is going on. So, with regard to the lingua franca, yes, lingua franca, the Nagamis was, it came about because of for business purpose. it's not only for the Naga people, but when they start business with the neighboring people like Assamese and some other language speakers. So, like I said in my talk, they started simplifying the language because Assamese may be too hard for the Naga people. And there is also, some Hindi vocabularies going on inside that, and mixer of various other languages and some other Naga languages as well. So they simplify the language. If they learn Assamese, it will be too hard for them. If they learn Hindi, it's too hard for them. And some of the sounds are very difficult also. Some kind of simplification in the sounds and in the grammatical structure was going on, which became Nagamese. If not, it's very close, it's very similar to Assamese language. So somebody who knows Assamese, they can easily understand Nagamese. It's very similar to that extent. So coming to, do they need a common language, a pidgin for communication, right, sir? Yeah. So when it comes to Nagaland, yes, their languages are so diverse. When we say like different tribes are living together, different communities are living together, I think around 16 recognized tribes are there. So within that tribe, they have their own variation. So, for example, among the Ao, they have Mongsen Ao, they have Chungli Ao, they have, Chunky Ao, like that. So they don't understand each other's language. So, and village to village, the differences may be more. So think about community to or tribe level differences. It's very deep. So they need, a sort of, common language or link language for their own communication purpose. So people are mostly communicating. Those Naga people, they themselves use mostly Nagamese, and with others they prefer English language for communication. But in the case of Manipur and some other states, that may not be the case, although the Nagaland scenario is different. So in Manipur we have three big groups: the Meitei, Naga, and the Kuki group. So especially the Kuki group, the languages are so similar, so similar. So we don't need any kind of interpretation, if because we have been living together for many years together. So we can just communicate with the variety that we use, with the language that we speak, and the other person also can just respond with his or her own home language. So that is the case. But when it comes to Naga, again, it is, uh, more diverse in that, because the languages are more different, and lots of diversity are existing within the community. So in Manipur context, either English or Manipuri language is used as the link language between intercultural or inter-community communication. And in other states like Arunachal, Hindi is very much in use, and in other states like Meghalaya, English is very prominent. So that's as per my understanding. I may not know every nook and corner of Northeast, but uh, according to my knowledge, that's what I can share. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question. What strategies can teachers adopt to balance the use of local languages and global languages in education?
Okay, so how do we balance local and non-local languages, right? Yes. So see, nowadays this NEP 2020, everyone is aware of that. So NEP, with the government's initiative, is encouraging mother tongue education, especially children till certain level of their education. So like is it in the context of those who are already grown up or for children, ma'am, this question?
Yes, ma'am, at different levels, like from the primary to the grown up.
Okay, primary also. So yeah, it is said that, if we learn the lesson with our own mother tongue, because that's the first language that we learn since birth, right? We are introduced first to our home language, to our mother tongue. So if we start learning with that same mother tongue, even in school also, our understanding, our knowledge will become very firm, and then, we'll have a deep understanding about the subject that we are learning. So I also believe in that. So with regard to other language, we can learn anytime because there's so many tools. There's so many like platforms in which we can learn other language. So if we can start introducing the children's home language in school firstly, and let them learn their lesson with the language that they are comfortable with, they will have a better grasp about, the lesson that they are learning. And later on, slowly we can introduce the second language or the other language. So like for learning purpose, I find it very important, so that there won't be some kind of gap in our learning just because we don't understand the language that is being spoken to us or used as a medium of instruction. So like, and with the, as the child grows up and then learn the other language or become more fluent in the other language, we can simultaneously use the two languages in the classroom. So we should also ask the child or the student with what language he or she is most comfortable with in learning. So when we teach in one language or, the non-native language, will he or she be able to understand, or what is better for us? What works best for him, for the student? I think that will also be very important from the teacher who is teaching. Yes, understanding about the child's uh, comfortability with regard to language.
Yes, thank you, ma'am, for that. We have another question here. Translation tools make it possible to travel and communicate without learning local languages. So, how can teachers still motivate students to value learning new languages in depth beyond just relying on the technology? Ma'am, you muted.
Yeah, ma'am, can you repeat it once more if you don't mind?
Yeah, ma'am. See, there are many translation tools that are available now. So, it is made, travel and communicate possible without learning the local languages. So, how can teachers still motivate the students to value learning new languages in depth without, relying on such technology?
So why learn other language when there are so many tools that can help us, right? Why take the trouble? So it is true, but making use of those applications, those apps, um, to serve our purpose and actually learning a new language or second language or other language, that is, the experience is different. Because when we learn new language, we also, learn the culture of that language, and we also have a better understanding about that language community. So in that way, when we have to have an interaction with people from that community, we can connect in a better way because we already have some background knowledge about that community by learning their language. Because when we learn a language, we have to learn, so many things. It's not only learning words, it's not only learning few sentences. It's learning about, what is allowed in their language, what is not allowed in their language, what are the taboo words, uh, so many things are involved. Even the culture is involved. That's why learning a language is still very important, even in the age of AI. Although translation tool is, within a split second, doing all our work without even us, without knowing the other language. So suppose, yeah, when it comes to traveling, okay, let's compare that a local language where these people are speaking, where you are trying to visit that place versus you simply rely on the tool that you have. So how will the response from the local community will be? Because when we hear people speaking our own local language, we welcome them, right? So we give them a warm welcome. We try to connect them. We try to, help them in whatever possible way because uh, we we show appreciation that at least they give an effort to connect, one-to-one connection with the local people. So we can never compare translation tools with actually learning another language, although both can be helping us in, especially when it comes to traveling. The experience is totally different.
Jiva Bharti has asked that, do you think Hindi dominates other states' mother tongue? And yeah, is bilingual allowed in primary school and is it good to follow?
Hindi dominate over mother tongue. So Hindi is, I consider it as a link language. So I do not see, let me tell you my viewpoint as linguist, because our perspective about language is very different. Okay, although in my talk I mentioned about majority language, minority language, different classifications of languages, but we don't actually subscribe to those kind of classification. We view language, be it language with less number of speakers, more number of speakers, as equal, because each language has its own structure, its own vocabulary, and the more unique a language is in terms of their sounds, in terms of different aspects of the grammar, you know, it became more interesting to a linguist. So it caught our attention. So we we consider, as a linguist, we consider Hindi as one language, one of the settled language, and it may be a linked language in some states or in some situation or in some occasion. That's it. And your mother tongue is never, is never less important than some other languages. So your mother tongue should be preserved. Your mother tongue should be, spoken with good attitude, with good feeling about yourself. Only then we can have a good feeling about our own mother tongue, and we can also continue with the transferring of mother tongue to the other generation. So never consider your own mother tongue or your own language as less important than other languages. So language is mainly for communication. So as long as it serves the communication purpose, connecting with people, helping us in our interaction with other people,